It's destroying everything.
It's not destroying. It's making something new.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So recently I saw this movie, this crazy movie that I just have to talk about. And that movie was Annihilation. So Annihilation was directed by Alex Garland. He started out as a writer on 28 Days Later and Sunshine, and eventually made his directorial debut with the film Ex Machina. And what do you do after a successful film like Ex Machina? Well, you make another one. Annihilation is a hard movie to explain without really spoiling anything about it, but I am gonna do my best. Natalie Portman's missing husband, played by Oscar Isaac, mysteriously returns only for him to suffer a seizure, I guess, and to be taken away by the military. Natalie Portman is knocked out and wakes up in a compound where she meets Jennifer Jason Leigh, who tells her about a mysterious growing region of land known as the Shimmer. People who go into the Shimmer never go out, so Natalie Portman and a team of female scientists decide that they're going to go in and see what's happening. And from here on out, things get really weird. So this is actually an adaptation of a book, so let's clear a few things up first. So people like to get angry about things. That seems fairly obvious, and a good example of this is when people like to get upset when a movie based on a book doesn't follow that book exactly. I did not read the book Annihilation, so I don't really know too much about the differences between them. From what I've been reading in articles and stuff, the book is pretty much unadaptable, so a lot of changes had to be made. Alex Garland actually said that he wanted to make this film his own thing, so he made changes that he thought would be for the better. There also seems to be this big debate because some of the characters in this movie are white while they were a different race in the book. But from what I understand, Alex Garland already cleared this up, saying that that was not established till the sequels, and he started working on this film before those books were even written. And I know people do like to make a big deal about these things, and I think in some cases it is necessary to, but in this case, I think it's fine. I don't care. Annihilation can probably best be described as sci-fi horror. It has that basic premise of, here's a thing we don't understand, let's find out more about it. It uses that thing that I absolutely love in sci-fi, where something seems pretty harmless at first, but is slowly revealed to be something darker and much more horrific. Like, the Shimmer in this movie is a beautiful place. There's lots of work put into this movie to make it look absolutely unique, so it definitely resembles our Earth, but you can tell there's a lot of differences as well. I like the idea that this whole dimension is alien, so the way that plants and animals and all of that stuff works is going to be different from our own. Now, maybe it is just because Alex Garland did reveal that he wants to direct a Swamp Thing movie, but while watching this, I couldn't help but feel that, like, all of the visuals felt very inspired by Swamp Thing comics. And that may just be because of all the plant imagery, but I would love for Alex Garland to direct a Swamp Thing movie. He definitely should. A lot of this movie plays around with the idea that, despite some similarities, this is a whole new world that we cannot understand. There's a lot of very creepy ideas and concepts revolving around that in this film. The most notable thing about the Shimmer is that everything is connected in some way. As Tessa Thompson's character says, the Shimmer refracts everything, including genetic information. Now, you could argue that the movie is a bit sloppy in that sense, because not everything in this movie is connected to one cause. It's a bunch of different causes, all connected to the Shimmer. The characters that do die, and yes, there are characters that die in this, they all suffer a different cause of death. There is a scene with this mutated bear creature in this film, and while I won't spoil it, I will say it is the most terrifying bear scene since The Revenant. The movie plays a lot with what this environment will do to you, that you have a better chance of going crazy before you die. All of the actresses do a pretty good job in this movie. I'm not a huge Natalie Portman fan. She's definitely not my cause to go out and see this movie, but I do think she chooses really interesting movies. And I like it when actors or actresses who were once kind of a joke start doing riskier stuff. Like, Natalie Portman went from the Star Wars prequels to this, thank God.
Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
Oscar Isaac really doesn't have too much to do in this movie, but he does do a really good job at being creepy. I actually saw a few posts talking about how hot he was in this movie, and I was just kind of like, what are you talking about? He's creepy. Probably my most favorite thing about this movie is that it just goes all out towards the end of it. It becomes much more of an art house film, and it really reminded me of some past art house films, probably Under the Skin being the most similar one. The film becomes really surreal at that point and takes on a really dreamlike feel to it. And at that point, you really start to believe that this is a whole nother world that we'll never be able to fully understand. And I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that a part towards the end did have some striking similarities to a level in the original Tomb Raider. If you've played Tomb Raider and seen this movie, then there's a good chance you know what I'm talking about. And as much as I want to just endlessly praise this movie for how weird and interesting it is, it still has some flaws. I think the biggest flaw is that there's an unnecessary subplot with Natalie Portman's character that has no reason at all for being there. It's like the director was worried that she didn't have enough that was interesting about her, so he threw in this whole plot that we didn't really need. Now, I'm not sure whether or not this was in the book, but either way, I think this could have been removed as it doesn't really add anything to the movie. But at least I can say that those scenes are all pretty short and they don't really affect the movie too greatly. I will also say that though I think all the actresses did a great job, I think every character except for Lena, who is Natalie Portman, is pretty forgettable. They don't really have a lot to them. Maybe if they took away some of the unnecessary backstory stuff with Natalie Portman's character and used that time to dedicate character development to those background characters, it would probably be a better idea. I also have to say that there is a lot in this movie that is left unanswered and could probably be better explained in a sequel. But the chances of a sequel happening now might be pretty slim. So I have this personal vendetta against Paramount. I absolutely hate them because they always make the worst decisions possible. Recently they've been making a lot of deals with Netflix, the most obvious one being the Cloverfield one, which of course was just a huge trick to get everyone to watch their terrible movie. They also made a deal where Annihilation in most countries is going straight to Netflix. This will likely in turn harm the film's performance in the box office, which probably means we have a much smaller chance of getting any sequels to this movie. So for those of you who read the book and you really want that trilogy to become a full trilogy of movies, then you're probably going to be disappointed. But I can say that Alex Garland at least gives the film an ending that kind of works, so in that sense, you can be satisfied with what you got. I will say Annihilation is not a perfect movie, but is one that far exceeded my expectations and just how much I enjoyed it. I was expecting a kind of fun but somewhat generic horror movie, but what I got was much more interesting. It is definitely not a movie for everyone. I can see a lot of people calling this pretentious or walking out of the theater, but that is exactly the kind of stuff that I live to see, and I am very satisfied with this film. If you're up for a weird, interesting sci-fi horror movie, then please try your best to check this out. It deserves all the help it can get. So that's all I have to say about Annihilation. I thank you all for watching, and goodbye.